Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We are back with the Ted Show. I'm very excited to have this talented artist, Kim Cameron's on our show today. We're going to talk about dancing forever, find out what side FX even means, talk about performing and collaborating and doing all sorts of things, music during the pandemic, and much more. Welcome, Kim. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, it's sunny and it's just a little chilly for Miami Beach, which is where I'm at.
Oh, you're in Miami. Oh, yeah. Why is it chilly down there?
Well, you know, when I say chilly, it's like 71. For us, that's chilly, but you know, I actually get to wear a sweatshirt today because it's a little chilly for me. But yeah, I can't complain, especially when you've seen Texas and everybody having all the snowstorms.
Miami Beach is one of my favorite places. Absolutely love it.
I can't say I hate it. That's for sure.
All right, so you know, we come on the show, people want to know, obviously dancing forever, we'll talk about that, but the audience loves to get to know the guest. They want to kind of know your background. They want to know how you figured out your journey to what your calling and your purpose was, which is obviously music. So give us a little details if you don't mind.
Wow. Well, first, that's really heavy because I don't know that I have figured out my journey, but I'm still trying to find my way. I started in
that is such an honest answer and a truthful one. I love it.
I started out later when it comes to the music side, and even later when it comes to the film side. But my musical journey on this original project started in about 2008. And it was, I was working corporate and had an epiphany when a family member was really ill, and I decided to write my first original song. So I've been in a bunch of really bad cover bands for a long time, and I did that, you know, on the weekends and the side, and I loved it. But when I wrote the original song, I got to tell you, I was like, wow, this is super cool.
So you had not written an original song before that?
Right. 2008 was the very first. Wow. And I went to, you know, my guitar player and I decided to go record it at a studio, which I'd never been into a studio before. And this sound engineer, he said, you know, I think you really got something going on there, Kim. I think you ought to find a producer. And he recommended a producer to me. And I said, okay. So I went in there, did my first song with the producer. I was so in love with the whole process of the studio and writing music and just that whole vibe. I was like, okay, I'm hooked. So I quit my job and wrote my first album and then took the band on tour. We went across the...
That's a big move.
It was like a crazy move.
Like it's a fast move from going from corporate to that.
It was a silly, well, it wasn't silly, but at the time, everyone thought I was completely lost my mind, going through some kind of midlife crisis. And so we had a huge bus, and I actually got signed to a record label very fast. Because I had an album out and I was ready to go, and I had a band, and we went on tour, which I completely had, you know, the 101 of what the music industry is all about.
Is it as glamorous as they say?
You know, it was more of an education for me, because when you get on tour, you are faced with every single problem. Right? Every venue is different. Every audience is different. You think you have like this perfect setup, but then you get there and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's not going to work. We can't use that. We can't do that. And so but the show has to go on, right? Because what are you going to do? Like sit in the van or sit in the bus or whatever. So you really learn how to adapt and how to make shows work in every circumstance. We were in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, and our bus made a turn that really he shouldn't have made, got stuck in like the ravine of the mud, right? Couldn't move. We're supposed to be in a gig in like a half hour. And I was like, what do we do? So I said, okay, everybody grab what they can. This is going to be acoustic. So, you know, the guys got one of their guitars. We walked, which wasn't that far, but we walked to the gig. One of the other guys sat down they had this old school piano there, and we did an acoustic set, right? And it ended up being really cool. And all the
magic.
Yeah. So, you know, you learn a lot. And my philosophy was, no matter what, I am not going to let a venue down. We are going to do this show, and there's always going to be a problem, but it's going to happen. And that kind of taught me a lot of things. But now I'm in let's see, I don't know, album number 13, I guess. You know,
are you really? That's amazing.
So
where do you come up with the motivation, the inspiration for the songs, and how has that collaborative piece changed, or did it change during the pandemic?
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit of a serial songwriter, so you know, I've got about 600 songs right now in my catalog.
Oh.
So it's my inspiration is from all over the place. From, you know, meeting people. I've written lots of songs about other people. I've written a lot of songs about myself, obviously. I'm a hopeless romantic, so most of my songs are love stories, and good and bad. You know, just
which is life.
Stories. Yeah, which is life. So I do a little bit of everything. And then I do write some children's songs. Obviously, it goes with my feature film that I'm releasing in the next couple of months. So,
yeah, well, let's talk about all of this. You have so much going on. So when I bring creatives on, I always want to encourage them to tell us everything, because we're going to go look it up, but we want to know.
So I have a children's book series that I wrote, and that was the first story was inspired while I was on tour in the Caribbean, actually. So I'd met this little girl during one of my breaks, and just the cutest thing, probably 9 years old. And we started having this conversation about sea life creatures. And she told me her favorite creature was an octopus, which I found odd. You know, when you're a little girl, you kind of think, well, you know, I love dolphins, or I love starfish, or something like that. But an octopus didn't seem like a little girl's sea life creature. So my guitar player and I, you know, what do you do when you're on tour in the Caribbean on a beautiful island? You know, go to the beach, and we wrote this song just like tongue in cheek called Mr. Octopus, and played it the next day, and the little girl loved it. And, you know, we kind of laughed. And my guitar player turns and looks at me. He says, you know, you should write a story about this. And being a journalism major background, I said, oh, you know, okay. So I wrote a story, and we decided to make an audiobook out of it. And the audiobook, then we had so many parents that contacted us saying, well, do you have it in written form? I was like, well, we don't, but I could. We turned it into written form, and then I got into the book publishing business, which was a whole area I had no idea about. So now I'm 5 books into this, and the first book I have turned into a full-length animated feature film, which is now finished. It will be out, you know, in your local streaming wherever in probably the next, I'd say.
So when you say I've turned it into, you actually, like, a lot of people write, but then they would have no idea how to get involved in movie production. Or tell us about that, because it's not a small step, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't totally new to the film business, in the sense that I started producing my own music videos probably a couple years ago. And I also dabbled with animation in some of my music videos. So I started learning how to do storyboards and the process. Now, again, a music video, which is 3 minutes, is very different than a 90-minute full-length feature film. And of course, you have dialogue associated with it, which you don't have dialogue with for the most part in music videos. So understanding that there was still a huge jump that I had to undertake. And so, yes, I wrote the screenplay. I had to convert my book into a screenplay. And then I had to convert the screenplay into storyboards, because when you're dealing with animation, it's all about what is the movement going to be. So when you think about film, most films are, you think about things to the minute, but in animation, you have to think about things to the second because if I scratch my head, I have to show that I want my head scratched, right? And that's all part of guiding the animators as to the direction that you want to go. And anywhere from like, oh, I need the eyebrow to come up because they're thinking about something or they're quizzical about something, to, how long does it take for a fish to swim from this part of the ocean to that part of the ocean? And so you do it to a timing level. And it's that timing then syncs up with a soundtrack, which syncs up to lip syncing voices and voiceover, and syncs up to sound effects. And so it's a huge production.
What I hear mostly is that there's a lot of people who have a director's mindset, and the director has this big vision. And wow, it seems like you have the big vision. A lot of people would probably, okay, let's say you could convert the book into a screenplay, but then to actually visualize the animation part and get involved in that part of it, that is a whole nother level. So you're involved in everything start to finish with this must be a passion project for you by now.
Absolutely. It's absolutely. And believe it or not, I have already started converting the second book into a screenplay with the hopes that this one is so much, there's so much love for it that they want to see a sequel. So,
what's on the agenda for you? First, we've had questions and I have to address them. People always want to know why the guest chose their title of their show. So what is Dancing Forever?
Well, that's just sort of my motto. I mean, I don't think I'll ever stop dancing. I grew up in the 80s, so dance music and Madonna were something that you just, heard all the time. And remember, MTV came out in the 80s, and that's when really music took a whole new life form. And for me, whether it was watching the Talking Heads for the first time on a music video, or seeing, Madonna with her black lace and her, at the time it was risque, but now it's not. That just inspired me to stay true to what that's my first love, is dance music and all sorts of dance music. And I wish I'd known I was going to be branching into songwriting back in the 80s. I probably would have had a more 80s sounding, catalog if I had. But then I got influenced by all these crazy guys out of Amsterdam. So that wholly totally changed, my mindset. But no, I'm a big believer that dance cures all things. When you're moving, you're happier. When you hear music that makes you you can't sit still, it makes you happier. And I'm all about being happy.
Well, you're also obviously, listening to you and then hearing your journey, you're obviously also about making other people happy. You want to see people enjoying the fruits of your labor. You want to see people enjoying the arts and things like that. And you can tell it because you are involved in each piece of it. It's obviously important to you for them to have an experience, whatever that is their own. But whether it's the music, the film, the books, you want everybody to kind of get their own piece of it and be happy. You've got a very happy demeanor to you.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that is the objective, is that I do believe my job is to be an entertainer. And so if people are not entertained, and hopefully they're entertained in a way that makes them feel positive, because that's really where my music is headed. I mean, I have a few songs that are a little bit, deep, because I think there are times you want to feel reflective and kind of take a step back. But for the most part, I really want people to listen to my music and feel like they can escape. You know, they feel like they're going fast on a sailboat and the wind's in their hair, and you know, they could do anything. I just want to feel like people can fly.
Love that. Now, do you have any song that, I have a lot of songs that make me cry. Do you have any song that you think of when you think of happy or sad? Is there some song that comes to mind that's something that is your go-to for helping you emote whatever that emotion is that you want to feel at that moment?
You know, I don't have a go-to song. I would say I have some go-to artists that when I'm in a particular mood that I'll turn them on. So, but if I'm like in a peppy mood, you know, for sure I'm gravitating toward Kylie Minogue. You know, it's hard to not be happy when you're listening to her music.
Happy.
She is. You know, if I wanted to take it down and be in like a chill thing, I'd probably turn on Lionel Richie and just sort of vegetate for a while, because he's funny, because at the time, if you remember, he was kind of known as this kind of R&B/dance guy, but when you listen to him now, it's like he's like really chill, like he's super chill. And so you kind of scratch your head and go, wow, how much we've changed the BPM in our life, right?
We have. All right. So how do people reach you? That was actually the #1 question. What's the best way for them to listen to your music, to learn more about your books and your upcoming movie?
Well, I have 2 websites, and from there you can launch onto these various social platforms that we all entertain on. The first one it's sideeffectsmusic.com. And the other one on my children's side and my movie side would be superpowers, like as if you have superpowers, but you're in the sea, superpowers.com. So both of those are probably the best way and easiest way for people to find me, and they'll be able to see previews of the upcoming movie and all sorts of stuff.
You're a joy. Thank you so much for coming on the show, you all. Check it out, sideeffectsmusic.com. And obviously, I'll put the other one up too when we share the show. Thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime you've got a project. I can't wait to see the release of the movie. That is so huge. And if you have any songs or anything you want to debut here, you are always welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Kim Cameron. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we'll see you.